Hours before the deadline, activists from the #YouthThink movement occupied the Environment Ministry in downtown Beirut, calling for the minister to resign. For weeks now, people have been protesting against the government, angered at its inability to deal with the rubbish crisis that has left Beirut's streets filthier than ever. On Tuesday, activists decided to escalate their acts of civil disobedience to get their voices heard. The standoff at the Environment Ministry lasted for more than 9 hours. Throughout that time, the minister himself was holed up inside his office. Skirmishes began to take place halfway through, security forces beating a protester after they sealed off all the entrances and exits to the building. Then, just before the sun set, they began to remove the activists from inside the ministry. At least 3 people were carried away on stretchers.
They used batons and kicking, especially down the stairs, and in breaking us apart.
This 15-year-old activist described to me how riot police first beat journalists who were reporting from inside the building before they then kicked him out. He told me, despite being detained during last week's protests, he will continue to take to the streets. As night fell, hundreds of people gathered in the square outside the ministry in solidarity with the few who managed to remain inside. Chants against the government and the security forces rang out as the crowd got angrier. What started off as protests against the government's inability to deal with the country's rubbish crisis has now, by all intents and purposes, been transformed into a protest movement, not only against the government, but against the entire political system. Now, the more that these standoffs take place and the more that the security forces meet the protesters with force, the larger it appears this protest movement is becoming. Jamal Al-Shayal, Al Jazeera, Beirut.